Welcome to the ExoDexa podcast. I am here with my co-author and co-founder Nolan Bushnell, who needs very little introduction, and Kevin Caldwell, who is our executive producer of the game for ExoDexa. Our goal is to put curriculum into a game that the kids would even play on a Saturday. So, Kevin, let's talk about, because I am just blown away by your ideas for the game. I really have just never been happier about a hire. And of course, it did come to us through one of our board members, Tim Morton, and he spoke highly of you, and we will all join in that choir now. But talk a little bit about where the idea came from for the game and your motivation there.
Yeah. So let's see. We really are looking at this, middle school, high school aged child, and a major motivation for what kind of game to make was me reflecting on my middle school and high school years, and thinking about the developmental stage really that kids at this age are going through. They're going through rapid changes, from that 12, 13-year-old range where they're first becoming a teenager and they like celebrate, like, yeah, they're counting down the days, like, I'm a teenager now. That was me, at least. And then their bodies are changing, their minds are changing, their values are changing, their virtues are changing. There's so much change happening for them. And when I think about the types of game experience that would be really beneficial to that age. It's something that's going to meet them where they're at, right? And I think coming of age stories of growth and kind of starting from nothing and or sort of a blank slate, if you will, right? They're coming into their teenage years. Yeah, they've got some history, but there's so much that they have to experience yet, and so we started this project with what do kids that age need to experience, and what do they sort of need to be exposed to that'll help them grow, that'll allow them to face difficult challenges, difficult decisions. What kind of media will help them rack their brain and think about some of their life experiences, and how to kind of overcome those challenges they might be encountering.
I remember a comment that I believe it was your nephew made when he said something to the effect that, if you're going to make an educational game, don't tell us it's educational.
Yeah. He, he, yeah, that was exactly it. Kids are in school, and you guys have described what that school experience is like in the book. And this needs to not feel like school at all, right? This needs to feel like a really compelling story that they want to continue to sink their teeth in for years to come. And if we're basing that story in education or academics, like, it's not going to necessarily entice them to want to keep playing. So, the story that we're creating is very much a coming of age story, set in a far distant future that is a bit unrecognizable, right? And so they're having to come in and explore our world and kind of reveal all of its secrets from nothing, from not having any context about what's happening in this world.
Yeah, I really love how you have the kids arriving in pods without memory or bias of any type. I mean, that really gets it gives us a real opportunity to kind of build empathy and not worry about political or cultural differences, but just they're there, and survival is the key. Like,
Yeah. They and we're reflecting that, like, we're not telling that to them directly through any sort of narrative. We're telling that through character dialogue, right? So they land on this planet, they don't really know exactly what's going on, and they're sort of finding out about themselves through having a conversation with this AI companion, and they're getting additional bits of information as they continue to kind of set up their initial camp. They kind of go through some of the wilderness, and they collect some of the items, and encounter some creatures that are not so friendly, that are trying to do them harm. And it's through that they start to learn about who their character is, and what their character knows and what they don't know. And through that continued playing of the game, they experience more and more, and they learn more and more. But yeah, they're starting from a blank slate. And the characters and the NPCs that are in the world, not excluding the AI character, they know more about who you are and your history than you do. And so it is through those interactions and the dialogue with the different creatures, and doing things for them, and going and solving different challenges and quests, that more of the world and what's happening in the world is revealed to the character. And the hope is that through continued playing, they get to really decide what their place in that world is.
Interesting. Like I was, I've been curious and hadn't asked you yet about, like, is there a future in the game where the kids have to build a society? I know initially they're building a place to shelter themselves, right? But is there a multiplayer future, and where do you see it going?
Yeah, I think initially, it's not so much them building their own society, but them trying to fit in to the society that now exists on this planet that they've landed on, and sort of discovering what those rules are and who these species are, and sort of what their values and virtues are. That's really the sort of initial focus. The players come in, and they're allowed to, allowed by some of the NPC factions that are existing on the planet, to set up their own sort of base camp, and what we're calling our sort of player hub, base. And each player will have one of those. And initially, we're looking at the single player experience, but eventually that's going to grow into a multiplayer experience. And so each one of those player hubs will be customizable, and it's not necessarily a full society that they're creating, but they are able to customize that base camp that they have, and it'll be sort of unique to them. And so when they invite other players to join them, those players will be joining their camp. And so depending on who's hosting the game or sort of starting the game, you'll sort of join a different player's base camp, and it'll be custom based on what content they've unlocked, how they've decided to place those customization options inside of their camp. But yeah, not quite building their own society, but certainly having their own space in the world that they can call their own.
Great. What do you think there, Nolan? What's the verdict from the
Just
Godfather?
reminded that I was contracted to kind of do a game of life in which the player was making decisions at certain times in their life and then played it out statistically. So things like, if you decided to take heroin when you're 18, by the time you were 21, you had a 50-50 chance of being dead.
Mm.
I mean,
sounds about
that's
right.
The data. That's the data.
Yeah.
If you chose to go into law, at 18, we create these circles with the thing, and then various pieces of the pie would have various outcomes, and so you could change that. So if you decided to go into law, 40% of kids who at 18 go into law drop out. And so it's and
Right.
but that doesn't necessarily mean that they make less than an attorney. Like an awful lot of failed attorneys go into real estate and make gobsmacks of money.
Right.
And what we were trying to do is create this idea that decisions now have a very, very broad level of outcomes. But we just wanted the kids to kind of see a little bit of the panoply of what those outcomes were. And it was really kind of fun. It was done by, it was contracted for us by ANZ Bank, Australia New Zealand Bank. And they got all kinds of awards for the damn thing.
Oh, great. Was that while you were at Atari, Nolan, or that was post-Atari?
No, that was actually when I was doing Brain Rush.
Ah, okay. Well, this, I met with a consultant this week who was talking about how difficult it is to launch an ed tech company, ed tech product. And, I was sort of biting my nails while I was listening to him, but I really feel like, part of the concerns, he said it's easier to launch a program to younger ages because you're advertising to the parents. And when you're going after the older ages, the high school kids, they're pretty well entrenched in their favorite video games at that point. And I think because we've adjusted down a little bit with our initial game to about grades 7 and 8, I think, and we want to go in both directions and make, by the end of this, depending on what our budget is to build out the game, ultimately I want to have everything that a kid would have to learn from K through 12 in the body of the game. And if we can get the kids excited about playing the game and they just happen to be learning, that's the key. And I think that's what you were referring to, Kevin, with the challenge from your nephew, is game forward. And my initial interest in doing this, even when Nolan and I first started talking about doing the book, the video games for me, two things. My grandson, who was 6 at the time, was telling me this very elaborate story about something that he and his friends had developed or were doing in Roblox. And my thought was, like, all this that he has to remember and understand, and if only it had some value in the rest of his life beyond the fact that he's exercising the muscle to remember and to understand things. And then when I started talking to Nolan about the possibility of video games, it was also that this will allow for individualized learning as well. It'll allow the children to work at their own pace, relieve some of the early humiliation that happens in the classroom for the kid. I was a slow learner. Nobody thought it was a good idea for me to go to university. If I made it through high school, they were all going to be happy. And so, and it took me a while to go back to university and I got carried away. I went to finish a BA and I stayed and did the PhD. But it was because my education was between me, my professor, or my advisor. And so I had gone in saying to myself, okay, if it takes me 10 years to do what it takes other people 3 or 4 years to do, who knows except me? And I'm going to be 10 years older when I get there, whether I do this or I don't do this. So I had just decided I am going to grit my teeth and do it. And then because you're treated as an adult when you're in university, it's a different experience. And I loved being back in school. And also by this time there was spell check, because apparently what I have in common with Winston Churchill is that we both spell like crap. So that was spell, not smell. So, but there were so many things that are available now, like doing a PhD now. I feel like we should get PhD light on our diplomas, because I didn't have to spend hundreds of hours in the basement of the library looking for articles. We had something called We Deliver. I would need an article at night. I'd go to bed and it would be in my inbox in the morning. So it really made that side of doing this so much easier. And that's where I feel like we're trying to get kids to be lifelong learners, and we're making the first 12 years miserable. I have, a bunch of nieces and nephews who are graduating high school, and I even offered, like, I will pay for your college education. None of them are going on to college. They're all finished. My one niece, I'm quite proud. She's doing an amazing job, and she became a welder, and she is this absolutely adorable little 20-year-old, and she's doing all the apprentice work as a welder and making a good living. So I'm happy for her because she has something she loves in a direction she loves, and not everybody needs to go to university. I just wish that
She needs to
everyone
watch
had the option.
Flashdance again. She needs to.
That's right. I bet she's never seen it. I'm going to have to recommend that to her. You know, she's 20 years old. That came out before she was born.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'll have to recommend that. But I think our game allows us to make education enjoyable.
Yeah.
That is certainly the ultimate.
Yeah.
The ultimate goal is to make learning fun, right? And to make practicing those skills that they're learning in school enjoyable as well, and to give students a medium to do that, right? If I think about my educational experience, like there wasn't really a way to practically apply what I was learning in a context that was meaningful to me, and I think that's sort of partly what we're doing, right? Is we're creating a context in the game with the story, the mystery adventure story that we expect to be really engaging and exciting for kids, and in that space they can apply these skills and demonstrate these skills and practice these skills and get feedback on what's going well, what's going not so well, in the context of game progression and some of the ways that games hold you back if you haven't reached a skill level, right? You need to go get more practice at that skill. You need to go level up a bit more. You need to maybe do some additional crafting to create this other thing that you need to unlock that other thing. And I think the other part, and you've talked about some of the individualized learning components, right? Like we want emergent gameplay inside of in this game, and that emergent gameplay to create situational adaptability, right? And I think you both probably have experienced this, but you never know what's going to come at you in life, and you need to be ready to deal with it. And one of the things that I had done some research on the past is this idea of being performant at something. So much of our education is practiced and prepared and studied, but being performant at something is really a different skill set. You really have to have a mastery of that subject area to be able to stand up and perform and do what it is that skill set is requiring you to do. And that's my hope as well with how we're constructing this game and the objectives and the quests and the challenges, is they prime kids to be able to perform these things at a moment's notice. And that's that has a knock-on value to certainly to their professional future professional careers.
I think of one of the play tests that was done with our CFO's son, and the son didn't want to do it. I don't like games where you have to read, and because ours is educational, of course you have to read. And then after he did the play test, he went directly to his dad and said, "You have to tell me when the next level's ready because I don't know what happens next." So mission accomplished so far there, Kevin. And that's something else that I was thinking about, that just the rigor. Like there's research now that speaks to how important video games are to brain development and to student rigor, because they will try and try and try to get to that next level, and they'll keep coming back and do it again, which is a skill that we really need this next generation to have, because the solutions to the problems that they're inheriting are not going to be easily solved. So not giving up easily and finding a new way.
Yeah, absolutely. Grit is certainly a very very important skill set. I don't know if that's I guess it's a skill set in that regard, but having determination and perseverance is something that my dad always tried to instill in me, and I'm certainly trying to instill that in our daughter. And I think that's creating a world and a story and characters that encourage players and students to want to continue to engage in our game is really I think an important aspect of priming them to develop those skills and that grit and that perseverance to overcome some of these problems, and giving them things inside of the game that they care about, either cosmetically or because, it's sort of a requirement to get to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
often
I
felt
think that
that optimism and
go ahead,
grit
Noel.
hand in hand with each other. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's much easier to have grit if you're optimistic about life, if you're a glass half full kind of person. And
Yep.
I've been trying to figure out, how do you teach optimism? Is it an innate capability, or is it innate, or is it made or born? I don't know.
I have a sense that it is. I actually wrote a paper about this because it was I was passionate about it. And my theory is that it is learned, but it also is taken from children. So I think small children are naturally optimistic about things. And if they have enough adults in their life encouraging that optimism, it will stay. If they have adults in their life who are smashing that optimism down, then it can be killed. And I think of, Sir Ken Robinson's first TED talk that he often jokingly says he created TED because of that talk, because does education kill creativity? And he did a longevity study where the kids like 95% of the kids in kindergarten said they were creative and tested as creative. And as they grew until they were in like ninth grade, and by then maybe 5% of the kids thought of themselves as creative. So what are we doing to pull that out of them? And I believe it's tied to optimism and the way they see their future. And if you're constantly under the gun with your parents, if you're, in trouble a lot and you're getting in trouble and you're being told that you're wrong or bad or whatever, that'll
Yeah.
take the optimism out.
There's sort of an attitude of confidence, right? That is underlying optimistic thinking as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
And your confidence to be able to solve problems and to solve difficult situations. And I think that really, for me personally, like has underlined my confidence, right? To be able to solve any of the sort of challenges that have come my way in my life. And I am most optimistic when I have confidence in an environment to overcome whatever challenges might come our way. And yeah, that's that's another subject near and dear to my heart.
I think that's
Yeah.
good, Kevin. I agree. I think that if we find ourselves able to deal, that gives us optimism and
Yeah.
confidence. It's all kind of
So I have.
a mashup.
Oh, sorry. No. Yeah. Sorry, there's a bit of a delay on my end, so I thought you were done. Anyway, I have one final question, and then maybe Nolan has another question for you. But we're still in the raising financing stage, so I will from the point the financing is done, Kevin. From that point, how long do you think before we can make the game available to the public?
Oh, that's a big one. My goal is 6 to 8 months ish to get into a proper closed beta state, that anyone can come sign up, register and begin to experience what we've built. We'll certainly be doing additional play testing, from now until that point. So if there's an interest, sign up on our website for the play tests, and we'll hopefully be able to get you in and invite you. But certainly there'll be a point in the near future that we'll be able to get that opened up to anybody that wants to join and check out what we're doing.
So kind of unfair of me. I started and ended with a tough question, but
Yeah.
thank you for not running away.
Yeah. I
And
mean, that's my goal. That's my goal, right? And I think some of the groundwork that we've laid and the foundation that we've laid is really setting us up to be able to accomplish that. But who knows exactly what the future holds? But we'll be able to achieve it.
do you have anything, Nolan, to close up?
I'm happy.
Good. Okay. Well, we hope that everyone watching will also go to the website and sign up for the Founders Circle, because that is our inner circle of people following through with us with the game, and then please sign up for the playtest if you've got somebody in that 7th and 8th grade range. And thank you, Kevin, for taking the time out today, and thank you, Nolan.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you everybody who's been with us. We'll see you again soon.
Good all.